In this video, I want to talk about when not to be happy. Now, before we launch into this, let me say I'm a person that likes to be joyful. I really believe that God created us to be joyful, even to be happy. If we would pursue a relationship with Him, we can find real and lasting happiness. But the Bible says there's sometimes not to be joyful, not to be happy. And it's important that we understand that because we can do a lot of damage being happy when we shouldn't. So let's get to Romans 12:15 to show you what I mean. Romans 12:15 says this very simply: rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn. Here's what that verse means. It's very simple. It just simply means share in the joy of your friends. First thing, when your friends are experiencing joy, when they're happy, you should experience joy with them. When your friends have something great that happens in life to them, it should get you excited. When your friend gets a promotion, when your friends have children, when your friends help lead someone to Christ and they're joyful and excited about it, the Bible says you should rejoice with them. You should experience that joy as though you yourself were receiving it because you care that much about your friends. But it's really the second part of this verse that I want to focus in on. We should also share in the sorrow of your friends. When our friends are sad, when those around us are sad, when those in our small group, when those in our church are grieving, we should grieve with them. Here's what often happens, though. When people are sad, when people are sorrowful, when Christians are sad, we tend to give them answers instead of being sorrowful with them. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I know in times in my life when I've experienced a lot of great grief, and I've been the saddest when I've lost loved ones. I've had people come up to me and say, "Well, you know, God works everything out for good for those who love Him." And that's a theological truth. But when people are going through great grief, they don't want answers. When people are experiencing sadness, when a loved one dies, when they get a diagnosis from the doctor that is really scary, they don't want answers. They don't need theological truth in that moment. They want to be comforted by God, and they want to be comforted by their friends. They want to know God is their Father who loves them and embraces them, and they want to know that they have friends who will just mourn with them and weep with them. And I think that's what Romans 12 is talking about. There's another great example of this from the book of Job. If you don't know who Job was a guy who had a lot of stuff. He was really happy from worldly standards. He had family, he had wealth, and it all went away. He lost his possessions, he lost his family, he even lost his own health. And when all that happened, here's what we read. When Job's 3 friends heard about all the troubles that had come upon him, they set out from their homes and met together by agreement to go and sympathize with him and comfort him. When they saw him from a distance, they could hardly recognize him. They began to weep aloud, and they tore their robes and sprinkled dust on their heads. Then they sat on the ground with him for 7 days and 7 nights. No one said a word to him because they saw how great his suffering was. I think that's such an appropriate picture of how to grieve with those who grieve, how to be sorrowful with those who have sorrow. Because Job's friends, they just were silent. They just shut up for a minute, and they didn't say anything, and they just were with Job, and they said, "Job, we're here for you." They didn't even say, "Job, we're here with you." Their presence communicated that. And so if you have people in your life who are grieving, just grieve with them. And ask yourself this question, because this maybe will help you think through this. When you've experienced grief, what was the most helpful thing that someone did for you? And on the other side, what was the most harmful thing that someone did for you? Because that'll help you understand why the Bible says, be sorrowful when your friends are sorrowful. They don't need answers. They need God, and they need your love.